Thank you. A lot of work has gone into this presentation, and we will continue to provide more information. I know district leadership teams, administrators, a lot of staff have put a lot of time into this, and they're working evenings on the weekend, and we do want to get this information out to everyone. If you will notice, this is our Smart Restart plan for our fall return, and you see, we're starting to put up pictures of people in masks. That is our new mandate from our governor in our state. I have been wearing my mask out and about more and more, and it takes some time to get used to it. So if you do have children at home, if you would start practicing that with them, I think it would really be helpful at the beginning of the school year. This is our table of contents. So after this presentation and board meeting tonight, we'll be posting all of this information out online. We want to get this out to families, kind of like a working, useful handbook. It has a lot of information. I'm sure families will be going back to this again and again. Our commitment, we have 6 areas that we're really committed to and prioritizing during this pandemic. The first is safety. That is our top priority for our students and our staff. It's a plan that reflects guidance from the Centers for Disease Control, the Minnesota Department of Health, and the MDE, Minnesota Department of Education. Our second area is equity. With everything we do, we need an equity lens. We need to be equity practitioners through this time. So our commitment to equity means that all students will have access to the resources and support they need to be successful regardless of the learning environment. Relationships, they're of the utmost importance to us. We are committed to building strong and positive relationships with our students, whether they're in person with us or online. And we're working really hard to put together a lot of different opportunities to build those relationships. Student support, we're very committed to supporting the social emotional health of our students and providing increased mental health support through the pandemic. And that is for both our students, families, and for our staff. Quality academics, whether we're in person or online or in a hybrid, we believe excellent teachers are essential to student success, and the quality instruction delivered in person or virtually should meet the same standard of teaching excellence expected in our Stillwater schools. And finally, we have family engagement. We're committed to working along with families to meet the individual needs of our students, whether it's inside or outside of our classrooms. We're listening. After this past spring, we surveyed our community to hear feedback regarding our distance learning, and the survey results helped us make improvements on how we will teach and how students will learn this upcoming fall. We also held a thought exchange survey this summer to hear your concerns, your ideas, your feedback, and your input about the upcoming school year. And this fall, we will send out another survey to get your input to find out how our 2020-21 school year is going for our families and staff. And these results will help us make more adjustments and improvements. We know that we are going to have to continually improve and change and keep moving along based on our students, families, and staff needs. We found out from these surveys and from Thought Exchange what matters most to you. That's safety, flexibility, and choice for families, more virtual learning experiences and personal connections, consistency, structure, and expectations, improved communications. Most families just wanted one format instead of a lot of different options coming into them. And then they wanted us to look at the workload and student engagement for this fall. Okay, our governor in our state came out this past week with Minnesota's Safe Learning Plan for the 2020-21 school year. And it's a 5-step decision-making process that they provided us. First, we need to consider county level data to determine MDE's recommended base learning model. We then need to consult with health officials to examine local data and consider impact on schools. We've been assigned to Washington County Health Department, and we do have an epidemiologist that will be working closely with us. The third step, we need to evaluate our district's ability to implement required and recommended protocols And this is very important because on top of all of the COVID rates, this will also come into play for making decisions on what model we're in. So we will need to look at staffing, transportation, supplies, protocols, and physical distancing. Some of our buildings are set up differently than others, and it can be difficult to physical distance. Our students, the high school, it could have 1,400 students and it's still half the capacity. And how do we make sure that they can provide that physical distancing? Transportation, just as a caveat, if we're in person, we do not have the buses to run at 50% capacity. So that would mean in person, the buses, we would have students 2 and 3 to a seat. So all of these factors come into play. Staffing, we're sending out a survey tomorrow to find out how many staff will be able, licensed staff, teachers will be able to return. Some might have health conditions, some might have family with health conditions. So we do need to have adequate staffing to supervise and instruct our students. And the fourth step, we need to determine the learning model to begin the school year. And then the last step, we need to continually monitor community and school level impact of COVID on a regular basis and adjust if needed. We're looking at the recommended base learning model that the state has provided us, and it's the number of cases per 10,000 people over 14 days by county of residence. And I have here, we are trending towards the hybrid model in Washington County. Over the past few 2-week polls, we started at 5.37 people per 10,000. Then we went up to 6.32, 8.92, 10.74, 12.71, and the last look at the data, it was 14.84. So over all of those 2-week data polls, it's on a trajectory going up. We have not seen it go down. Right now with the 14.87, we would be in the 10 to 19 range, which would be in-person learning for elementary students and a hybrid learning for secondary. That does not take into consideration all the operational decisions and support we need in place to make sure that that can happen. Okay, moving between our learning models. This is slide 6, and with this, I am going to turn over the next few slides to Dr. Jennifer Cherry, our brand new first day on the job Assistant Superintendent. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Superintendent Lansfeldt, Chair Stivlin, members of the board. I'm honored to be able to share pieces of our Smart Restart plan. The pieces that I'm going to be highlighting are specifically talking about the 3 models that we have been planning for. Just to reinforce a comment that was just made, as we anticipate moving between these learning models throughout the school year, the COVID-19 pandemic is changing the way we do school. And so our goal for the new school year, the 2021 school year, is to safely restart learning and reconnect with our students. Saying that, it's very likely we'll have to change our learning format throughout the year. So sometimes we may be able to meet full-time in person or in a hybrid model, and sometimes we may need to move all students to a distance learning format. This will all depend on the prevalence of the COVID-19 cases in our community, as well as our operational capacity to maintain a safe learning environment for all of our students. So whether we're learning in person or from home, all instruction this year is being developed in an online format, so we are able to respond to these changing circumstances and move quickly between the models. Families and staff are going to need to be flexible and have alternative plans throughout the year as we move throughout these 3 different models, district-wide or at an individual school or a classroom model. And so what we're phrasing this on is learning on the dial. As you can see, we will be shifting between in-person, hybrid, and distance learning formats. In an in-person learning model, students would return full-time to school for in-person learning. In a hybrid learning environment, we would have a blended learning model where students would spend 2 days of the week at school learning in person and 3 days at home learning online with an alternating schedule of an ABC. So students would be grouped into an A group or a B group. And then that last day, the C day, students all would be learning from home. In a distance learning model, all students would be learning remotely or would be learning from home and have the support of the district teachers through the use of technology. Now we know that these formats and this constantly changing environment might be difficult for some families. Some families may also not feel comfortable returning to school. And so we have an alternative format in this scenario. Students may choose, families may choose to have their students enroll 100% in online learning. So families will have the opportunity to choose between our learning on the dial model or 100% online learning. Families will be able to choose this through an intent to return survey, which will be going out to families tomorrow. This is going to be sent by email to all families tomorrow. Families must respond by August 9th to indicate whether they will choose the in-person hybrid distance learning option or the 100% online learning options. Families who choose the 100% online learning option, we are asking them to commit for one full term so that we can plan our operational needs accordingly. Choosing your learning model. So are those families interested in 100% learning? These are the items that are going to be included on the survey. We're also going to ask families about their childcare needs, the device or technology needs. Specifically, does each child have a computer device to use at home? We also need to know about internet access. Do families have access to reliable, high-speed internet access at home? And also transportation needs. Will families use the district transportation if we are in an in-person or a hybrid learning mode? Or will they plan to provide their own transportation if we are in either that in-person or a hybrid model? So in in-person learning, all students would attend school full-time. Schools would have to follow all the safety protocols and guidelines for face coverings, and we would also have cleaning and sanitizing that would take place. In an in-person learning, there are some requirements that the state have put into place, such as the face coverings and the cleaning and the sanitizing. And also some measures are put in place here for physical distancing, such as no large events or assemblies that would be held. We would also make some modifications to the school day to limit the number of students in one area at a time, such as lunch or recess. We are being asked to stagger our dismissal times, and we would have some markers on the floor, physical spaces, to try to show individuals what 6 feet of distance looks like. That may not be possible in all situations in an in-person learning format, but we would try our best to maintain physical distancing to the best of our ability. We wouldn't be able to maintain that on buses, in all classrooms and all situations, but that's what in-person learning would look like. All students would be attending school. Hybrid learning is where we have our students at split into groups. And so in group A, students would attend on Monday and Wednesday. In group B, They would learn at home on those days, and then Group B would attend school on Tuesday and Thursday. The fifth day, on C days, all students would be distance learning all day. So our buildings would be, we would have time to maintain the building cleaning. Teachers would have time to make those personal connections with students and also collaborate with their colleagues. In a hybrid learning environment, schools would follow all safety protocols and guidelines, continuing the need for face coverings. Here we would have increased physical distancing and the same cleaning and sanitizing. Physical distancing in this format would also be more operational because our schools would be operating at about 50% capacity. This also would allow more space for students to distance while they're riding the bus, because we would still only be at about 50% capacity at the maximum. The priority in setting up schedules in a hybrid learning format is to schedule families together on the same day. And so looking at who would be grouped into a group A, who would be grouped into a group B, we would look at family units and schedule them together on those same days. A note about hybrid learning, I can't say this enough, but we would be constantly monitoring our community COVID spread rates to determine, as we would need to fluctuate between hybrid learning, in-person learning, and distance learning. So it would require all families and all staff to remain flexible. Again, just a reminder, any family who does not feel comfortable with in-person learning can opt into the online learning 100% of the time. In a distance learning format, this is where we have 100% of our students learning at a distance or learning from home. We've learned a lot from last spring. We have received a lot of feedback. We are making significant changes from what we saw last spring in terms of delivery of education. We've recorded mini lessons to introduce learning. Teacher interaction with students would be in one-on-one or in small groups. We would have a mix of scheduled learning times as a class, along with independent online learning. Peer-to-peer activities would be provided for more social and emotional support. And we would have streamlined communication and more consistent use of our apps and our platforms. Within distance learning, there would be a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. To help you understand what I mean by that, synchronous is when students are learning at the same time and would connect virtually with their teachers and their peers. In an asynchronous learning environment, students would learn the same material, but it may be at different times and different locations. The difference between distance learning and online learning, the survey that we're asking families to take, is that with distance learning, we could be fluctuating between all three of these models. With an online, if families choose online learning, they would be committing to continual online learning for a period of time, a term. And we would reassess again regularly to meet those needs. And so again, for families who are not comfortable with any type of in-person learning, or families who would like consistency and knowing exactly what their student's schedule would be, families can opt into 100% online learning. It provides a consistent schedule of at-home learning, provides teacher interaction with students one-on-one and in small groups, with a mix of scheduled learning times as a class. So both synchronous and asynchronous learning types, both independent and class time. peer-to-peer activities to provide more social and emotional support, and also streamline communication and a more consistent use of apps and platforms. And again, we are asking families to respond to this survey no later than August 9th.
Thank you, Dr. Cherry, appreciate that. Special education, we've been having a lot of questions about this, and our special ed department has done an amazing job to put together plans for the upcoming school year for our students. In-person, hybrid, distance learning. Students will follow their assigned regular schedule. Families and staff will meet to discuss and agree to a set of prioritized schedules and services to be delivered in person when possible. Other services will continue remotely as specified in the IEP or Individualized Education Plan or Individualized Family Service Plan, the IFSP. Services for students with complex health or support needs will be addressed in collaboration with families on an individual basis. We will collaborate with families, with parents. If you have any questions or concerns after our staff reaches out to you, please contact them again. We want to work with you and really support these students. If families that have students with an IEP or IFSP would like 100% online learning, that is available. Students will be provided their special education services and supports as outlined in their individualized distance learning plan. And again, it will be developed collaboratively with staff and family members on an individual basis. This option supports students and families with a variety of medical concerns or those who just don't feel comfortable returning to school quite yet. So again, we will look at students on an individual basis. Special ed, EL, intervention, they are high priority students and their schedules might look a little bit different than other students. We really want to make sure that they're being supported and their needs are being met. Okay, 4-year-old preschool, a lot of questions about preschool. Preschool will follow the same schedule as our elementary schools for both in-person and the hybrid learning. There will not be an online learning option for preschool families. Depending on space availability, preschool play days, which are always fun, may be available for families seeking an option on the days when school's not in session. And the 3-school preschool programming will remain the same during the in-person and hybrid learning as well. Preschool is a fee-based program, and special education case managers of preschool students will be communicating with individual families on their child's special education services during the hybrid model, with online learning as an option for special education service delivery. So our preschool special education case managers will be in contact with those families to see what the needs are, and they'll collaborate to set up those plans. Okay, supporting students and families, this is critical during the upcoming year. All learning models will focus on relationships and building those positive connections with staff and classmates. School counseling, mental health supports, and resources will be available for all students, whether enrolled in person, hybrid, distance, or 100% online learning. Staff will be available to support families with technology needs. We're developing plans to provide orientation, web, and link crew to our 6th grade students, their former 5th grade students going into the middle school, and our 9th grade students that are just entering high school. We will have more information by our secondary administrators in an upcoming presentation about what that would look like. We also have our school psychologists, counselors, student advocates, or social workers. They are going to be meeting and have been to put together plans for that extra support, social, emotional, and mental health that our students and families will need. We'll also be providing our Ready, Set, Go conferences for all elementary students and families, and there will be a focus on building relationships during that time. And we're developing ways to build strong connections between teachers and students should we need to start the year in either hybrid or an online model. And there's information on how to access resources for mental health and wellness support. It's available on our website, but please do not hesitate to contact us via phone or email. We do want to support our families during this time. School age care and adventure club. That's the care that we provide from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. during non-student contact time, before and after school. It's Executive Order 2082 indicates that the district must provide childcare for children of Tier 1 essential workers at no cost during the school day for kindergarten to age 12, during times when the district is operating in a hybrid or distance learning model. Please note that Tier 1 essential workers, the job descriptions, they've been expanded to include agriculture and a few other areas. So we will need probably more space and staff for that. We will do our very, very best to provide a fee-based childcare program for families not classified as Tier 1 essential workers for before and after school based on available space in our schools and available staff. The space in our schools, we're working closely with building principals to find out what areas we can use and still provide that physical distancing. And then again, available staff, we need more staffing because of that physical distancing requirement. Okay, safety protocols. Again, this is a high priority to keep our students and staff safe. Frequent hand washing, face coverings. I've been wearing my mask as well. We have some pony masks on order and coming our way. Physical distancing, just to note again that it is no longer called social distancing. They've changed it to physical distancing. Disinfectant sprayers and fresh air hand sanitizer stations. They've already been set up for our summer programs. We will follow all CDC and MDH protocols. Physical distancing of individuals in classrooms, common areas, and visual reminders for physical distancing will be posted. Face coverings for all students K through 12 and adults in our building will be provided. A cloth covering by our district. We will also have disposable masks for our face coverings for those that do forget to bring them. And the state has committed to sending us a set for the students and staff as well. Regular hand washing of students and staff. The stations are set up throughout the school, in front of the cafeteria, by classrooms, all the common areas. We've postponed putting off school supply lists just to make sure we have to rethink this. We will not be sharing a lot of items amongst each other and our students. Trying to limit that. Increase daily and weekly enhanced cleaning and disinfecting, and increase circulation of outside air in buildings. I did ask for some more information on that. With the safety protocols, HR is working with the different departments to make sure that we will have adequate custodial and healthcare staff. That's very, very important. We did make cuts a while back, and we're going to have to reassess our needs. We're looking at staffing for the teachers, subs, paras, building and principal secretaries, and then the childcare programs as well. The mask mandate exemptions. I've had some families call and say, well, my child has a health issue, or my child, because of sensory issues, will not be able to wear a mask all day. The mask mandate exemptions include people who have medical or other health conditions, disabilities, mental health or developmental needs, behavioral needs that make it difficult to tolerate wearing a face covering, or any person that has trouble breathing, is unconscious, sleeping, incapacitated, or is otherwise unable to remove the face covering without assistance. We're going to work with families with this. We know this is a huge change. And again, Lakeview Hospital, we're going to try and partner with them, maybe make some fun videos to make it a little bit lighter for our students, especially the little ones. HVAC, or air conditioning, air circulation in the buildings. There's been a lot of questions about that. We are increasing the amount of minimum outside air from now until late fall. It's normally set around 15%. We're changing it to 30%. The air handling systems are not designed to bring in larger amounts of outside air during the winter months. So we can run the units 24/7 as cold weather dictates, reducing the amount of outside air per design during this time. We're also extending the times of our building air handling units. The majority of our building's air handling units normally run from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're extending this to 4 a.m. until midnight, until late fall or weather dictates. And we're extending the run times, or we're changing the air filters a minimum of 4 times per year instead of 2 times per year. And as always, we will continue to keep up with all of the preventative maintenance in order to minimize any potential breakdowns. We know that air circulation is very important during this time. And I appreciate Tony and his team providing me that information because we have had questions about that. Okay, screening expectations. Families, students, and staff are expected to self-screen at home before coming to school. Children and staff should be screened daily for any symptoms of COVID-19, including new onset of cough, shortness of breath, fever of 100 degrees or higher, chills, muscle pain, sore throat, loss of sense or smell or taste, gastrointestinal symptoms such as diarrhea, vomiting, or nausea. So anyone experiencing any of these symptoms should not attend school. If you have any questions about it, please call our health office in the morning before school, and we will have somebody in our health office that can help walk you through this. Transportation, the bus capacity will be at 50% as defined by MDE and Minnesota Department of Health. Students, drivers, and bus aides are required to wear the face coverings or masks. Students will be one to a seat, and those from the same household may sit together. Seats will be assigned. We are going to be assigning seats because if there is a COVID case and they rode the bus to school, we need to know the students and adults that were in close proximity within the 6 feet of the students. And bus pickup areas at each school will be marked for physical distancing. And the individualized education plans, or IEPs, driven accommodations will be reviewed with a commitment to finding solutions for all families of children with special needs. Cleaning and disinfecting will take place following each route with special attention to high-touch areas. Bus and parent drop-off and pickup zones and loading, unloading times may need to be modified. A lot of schools with the large summer programming, they've had to stagger the drop-off and pickup times just to maintain the physical distancing and other guidelines. And specific instructions will be coming from each child's school. School meals. It's been a wonderful program this summer and this past spring when we went into distance learning with the school meal pickups. The places that were provided, the nutrition staff, they have done an amazing job of tirelessly putting together meals to provide for many, many families. So in-person hybrid schedules, breakfast and lunch will still be available to students when they're in school. Meals will be also available to students for days they are learning from home. Distance and online learning, if students are on one of those options, weekly meal distribution will be available for families choosing 100% online learning, as well as for all families when in a distance learning mode. Meals that are served at school. Students may eat meals in small group settings outside of the cafeteria, including classroom spaces as determined by the school sites. At the elementary school, we're still looking at options for preschool, kindergarten, first grade, the primary grades to possibly have enough room in the cafeteria to really spread out and do that social distancing to possibly be able to eat in there. We're still working on those plans. Students will wash hands before and after meal service. Okay, this is a big question. Have I been exposed? We get a lot of calls on this, and because of that, just this last week, we are going to be posting a clerical position for somebody with a health background just to take these calls and to make sure that all of the protocols are being followed and everybody's being contacted that needs to be contacted when something like this happens. So if a student or staff member has a confirmed case of COVID-19 or COVID symptoms, they must stay at home for at least 10 days since symptoms began and until no fever for at least 3 days without medication and improvement of other symptoms. Siblings and household members, they need to stay home for 14 days. Other staff and students exposed to the individual will also stay home and quarantine for 14 days. This is another reminder that families need to be ready to be in all three modes unless they opt for the online option. If a classroom happens to be exposed and all of the kids for some reason or other were in close proximity, the class would have to go home for that quarantine time, or on the bus, if they were around each other for some reason and there wasn't physical distancing, then that section where they were exposed, they would need to be home for 14 days. So families, if you think you need that possible childcare on and off during the school year, please start thinking about that now. And we would like to try and support that. So if you're near a COVID positive individual and closer than 6 feet for longer than 15 minutes, that equals a possible exposure, and we would have to have those people quarantined according to the days that they need to be. Okay, what happens when there's a COVID case in school? And again, this is another reason why Lakeview Hospital and some other partners will be wonderful to help support this. We will communicate to all families in a school when there is a positive case, staff or student, and it's happened both ways during this school year. We'll conduct extra cleaning in areas where the infected person has spent time. We'll continue to provide important health information to families. We'll contact all students and or staff who are in close contact with a person who has a confirmed case of COVID-19. We'll monitor symptoms of students and staff and send students and staff home if they become ill at school. All of our summer programming sites, including Afton, Lakeland, where I've been, they have an isolation room. So if somebody is identified with COVID symptoms, we can keep them there, specifically the students, until we can have a family member, parents pick them up. We will not provide personally identifiable information of an infected person. We cannot give out names of people that are positive, and we will not immediately close schools for one positive case. We will look at these on an individual case by case, look at the scenario, look at the people and students who are in contact with them for exposure, and individually look at that. Again, families need to be prepared for all three. This summer, for instance, we did have grounds crew. We had some custodians, and it took out 3 to 6 people. And if that's at a site, then that really inhibits how we can function and provide support for our students. So there's many, many different scenarios that can occur. Hey, athletics and activities. I've had a lot of questions on this, and thank you to our athletic director, Ricky Michael, for always providing great information on what's going on with this. We will follow all Minnesota Department of Health, MDH guidelines, as well as Minnesota State High School League, MSHSL, and the National Federation of State High School Associations standards for return to play protocol. A decision on the status of fall sports is expected to be announced in mid-August. I just spoke with Ricky. We have had in several different athletic programs some students positive with COVID, and then we've had to shut down the programs, and the students that were exposed needed to be quarantined. I have been very happy with all of the coaches and facilitators of these programs. They have provided all of the plans that will follow these guidelines to our athletic department and community education department before they can even start. Then our district is checking to make sure that they follow the guidelines. The biggest thing is the social distancing, and when they can and cannot wear masks, when they're outside and inside when they're exerting. So there's a lot of thought that goes into this. This is the last week of contact that students will have with the coaches for the summer programming. And I just heard that on August 17th, the high school league will be meeting to make a decision about the upcoming athletic events and see where they're going based on the COVID rates. Okay, community education classes. First off, I have to give them kudos. They've been coming up with a lot of different possibilities for the upcoming school year of providing some support with some distance options. Community ed classes will be held online and in person, provided the number of participants can be physically distanced and no other state or local restrictions are in place at that time. It's also depending on the space availability, offerings may be limited. And face coverings or masks are required indoors, except when physical distancing is possible, and at times when the activity requires the participant to exert themselves. As much as possible, participants will have individual supplies and participants and instructors must follow all self-screening expectations. And I know with some of the community ed classes as well as athletics, students love to be social, and we always have to remind them about the physical distancing guidelines. It's just tempting to get together and have some fun. So that has been a little bit difficult, but we're getting better at it as kids like to be together. The PAC or Pony Activity Center, the number of members allowed to work out at any given time will be restricted based on local data from public health. Members must follow all self-screening expectations. The face coverings may be removed at the PAC while the level of exertion makes it difficult to wear a face covering, provided that social distancing can be maintained. Members are expected to follow all equipment and cleaning protocols. I know my little gym that I go to, people have been very respectful to wear the masks, except when they're exerting themselves, and then lots and lots of cleaning supplies will be there for people to follow those protocols. Okay, how can families prepare at home? You can do a lot to help us and to help your children. The guidelines we will implement to address the challenges of COVID-19 upcoming school year may seem uncomfortable to students at first. I know trying to wear my face covering, it just didn't feel natural at first, and you just have to put that time up front to make it a better experience for when students do start school. So try these tips. Talk to your child about return to school in September. Start talking to them now about how it will look different, what the physical distancing will look like, how to wear those face masks. Model at home wearing your face covering, washing your hands, and demonstrating that 6 feet of distance. Allow your child to pick out a fun face covering that's comfortable to them. Please do know that I will remind you that the state will be sending us out a cloth mask for students. We'll be providing a cloth mask, and we will have extra disposable for students that do forget. Practice putting it on, taking it off. They can practice, the little ones can practice with a doll or a favorite stuffed animal, and encourage your child to ask questions. They can ask questions with their parents or with the adults at school. We're here to help them and support them, and they can share their feelings, their worries, their concerns, and we're here to support. Okay, this is very, very important that we have families complete a survey that's coming out tomorrow to all families. We need them to complete the intent to return survey, which will be sent by email tomorrow, August 4th. Families must respond by August 9th to indicate whether they will choose in-person hybrid distance learning or the 100% online learning. We need that data to start making decisions about our school year. Families, please watch out for Adventure Club Childcare registration coming your way mid-August. We've had some questions about that. And please watch for more details to come from your child's school regarding hybrid schedules. I know the elementary and secondary principals are putting together more detailed plans, and we'll be presenting those detailed plans in an upcoming board meeting. Staff, very, very important that you complete the staff return to work survey, which will also be sent out tomorrow, Tuesday, August 4th. Staff must respond by August 9th so we can plan appropriate staffing for the coming year. I know one district had staff were close to 20% were not returning with this if they need to be in person. We need to know that so we can plan to support our students and all staff. If you need accommodations, we need to know that so we can see what we can do to provide those and support you. We will also request that the school board make a decision as to which model we will utilize. We've gone back and forth with this. We want families to know how we're going to begin the school year at our August 6th meeting, knowing that if that decision is made to go one way or the other, we still might have to change before the beginning of the school year, depending on the COVID trajectory, because the rates, they're going up. Maybe again, the mask requirement or face covering requirement might help the COVID rates from going up, but we don't know at this time. Families need to plan for all three models. We are trending right now to be in a hybrid model for the elementary and secondary, but we'll provide more information to you I want you to ask questions of us so we can try to make the best decision possible for our students, families, and our staff. One more thing before I finish the families. This will be in Skyward. You are automatically enrolled in that hybrid distance in-person option, but we need to hear from you if you want that online learning, so we know what we need to provide and how we need to staff.